Hello everybody, and welcome back to our journey on the road to somewhere. And we've taken a little bit of break over the Easter holidays. I hope you had a great Easter. And now we're ready to get back on it. We broke right in the middle of what we're calling season number 2, which is sort of the second leg on our journey. And for any of you that might be jumping in here and haven't been with us, let me just give you a quick sense of what we're attempting to do. One, I'd say the main thing we're trying to do is just to get through the whole Bible, give everybody a bit of an overview at a couple of different levels of every book in the Bible. And then to do that, we're also having a little bit of fun, because we're weaving that into a journey down Route 66. We're using my new book, The Road to Somewhere, which that's exactly what it does. It's the story of John Calvin and Joy Jardine, as they have been hired to drive Route 66 and make 66 stops and shoot just a short little video that gives a little bit of a background on Route 66, but also gives a little bit of what I would call a teaser about a corresponding book of the Bible. And the ultimate objective, and actually the reason I wrote the book, is to hope then that when a person in the narrative fictional world of the book watches the videos that they're shooting, that it will encourage them then to go to the lecture on that particular book that is linked to each session. And of course, what I'm hoping is that as we go through each of these little episodes in the 8 seasons that we are going to go through, that you, along with getting a little bit of a sense, not only of Route 66, but also just a quick little overview of a book, will then go on and watch the larger video, which you have a link to in your email that was sent out to you. So, you know, part of why I chose Route 66 is that there are 8 states that Route 66 runs through. I liked the idea that there were 66 books of the Bible, obviously, but these 8, there are also there are 8 major divisions of the Bible as it's set up in the Protestant world, at least, and so that each of these states can represent an entire section of the Bible. And then what we've done is that in each of those sections of the Bible, there are a certain number of books. And what we're doing is that whatever that number of books is in that particular section relating to that particular state, that's how many episodes we'll have. So we are currently in the state of Missouri, and Missouri is correlating to the history of the nation of Israel from the time of Joshua through what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And we've been through half of the state before we took our break. And so we're in episode 7 now of this particular season, and we're getting ready to go through the second half of that book in the weeks to come. You might have noticed back on the previous slide that I have given this particular episode the title of Catastrophe, and you'll see why I have done that. It has to do with what 2 Kings is all about, which is the book that ties in to the state of Missouri as we head down the road on Route 66. I also should say that the book is a story that has to do with the couple, John Calvin and Joy Jardine, that are filming these little videos, and there's a developing relationship that will take place as part of the trip. We haven't gotten much into that yet, but we're about to, as as we move into some of the states that we're getting ready to move through. So again, each little video that they are shooting has just a little bit about Route 66 and a little bit about that corresponding book of the Bible, again tying it into these 66 videos that I taught, actually. And that, again, that's really the primary reason I wrote the book. So halfway through, 6 stops, we started in Joshua and the conquest and moved on to them moving into the promised land and dividing it and settling it, and then to 400 years of a tribal confederacy that then moved into a monarchy with an actual king and a united kingdom. And in our last session together, what we really saw was, let me go back for, well, I'm going to come to this in a second, so I'll leave that there. What we really saw in our last session then was that the monarchy ended up in a civil war after the time of Solomon, and the nation was split in two. And so we've covered a lengthy section of the history of Israel from about 1400 BC to around 930 BC in 1 Kings, and in our session today, 2 Kings, we will go all the way up till, roughly around 586 BC. So, as we move down Route 66, our stop in this particular episode is the town of Lebanon. We were in Arlington in our last session, and it's roughly about an hour drive from Arlington to Lebanon. And on this stretch in the book, Joy gets to drive the car, and of course we've got this hot-looking Corvette that's been modified. It's a 66 Corvette, but it's been modified to have all of the running gear of basically a new Corvette. So it's a monster, and actually it becomes kind of a character in the story if you read the book, because everywhere they go and stop, it tends to draw a crowd, and they use this crowd sometimes in shooting their videos. So we're top down, we're heading down Route 66, and we head into Lebanon. Lebanon in the book, John, as he's doing his little video, he doesn't really make a lot of comments about Lebanon. As a matter of fact, he talks about the fact that this is one of the cities that has a big annual Route 66 festival every year, and then they have lunch at a really cool retro diner. What they don't talk about, but which I thought I might also kind of throw in our session today, is that one of the things that Lebanon is known for is it has a really good Route 66 museum. It's kind of strange. It's contained inside the library there in Lebanon, but part of what they've done is they've reconstructed scenes from that would have what it would have looked like in the old days going down Route 66. So it's kind of a cool museum, and it's a big stop for people that are driving the road. And then also it has a motel that is, again, one of the few motels on the road that has really existed and been operational the entire time that Route 66 has existed. It's called the Munger Moss Motel, and one of the things we know about it, by the way, if you decide to take this trip, it's on my particular bucket list, is that the new owners of this motel have a real love and passion for Route 66, and they came in and really renovated the motel. So this would be a great place to spend the night if you're on the road and making this drive. So in Lebanon. And then what John does is, as he's shooting the video, is he sort of transitions into 2 Kings and begins to give a little bit of a teaser to his audience about this book of 2 Kings. One of the things that I noticed about 2 Kings is that, first of all, if you read 1 Kings, you know that we have the division of the nation after civil war into north and south. And one of the things about 1 Kings is that it seems to sort of end real abruptly. It takes us up to the time when, around when Ahab was the king of the northern kingdom of Israel, and when Jehoshaphat was the king of the southern kingdom, and then it just sort of stops. And then when you start 2 Kings, you kind of feel like you're starting in the middle of something. And there's a reason for that, and that is because in the Hebrew Bible, 1 and 2 Kings are one book. It's just the book of Kings. And at some point in time when the Protestant Bible was being put together, they divided a number of books that in the Hebrew Bible were actually just one book. And so you kind of pick up, obviously, where 1 Kings left off. And what the book does, and John kind of explains, is that the book just basically gives a real kind of brief statement about each of the kings as they either become the king of the northern kingdom or they become the king of the southern kingdom. In the videos, the longer videos that hopefully you are watching also, I explain sort of how it's set up because it gets kind of complicated. I'm of the opinion that Kings and Chronicles are probably a couple of the books that many people that really believe in the Bible are not real familiar with. I don't know when the last time if you go to church, that you heard a message on Kings or Chronicles. But as the writer of the book deals and gives the time when the king ascended the throne, how many years that he ruled over the kingdom, whether it was the northern kingdom of Israel or the southern kingdom of Judah. There's always an evaluation of the king, and there's just these two phrases that appear quite consistently throughout 2 Kings, and those phrases are that either the evaluation of the particular king is that he did evil in the eyes of the Lord, or he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. And it's kind of a disastrous story in some ways, because what we know, and this shows just a brief illustration, the top half of the graphic shows all of the kings of the northern kingdom. There's a little line at the bottom, if you can see it, that actually is supposed to represent the spiritual state of the kingdom under each of these kings, and you can see it's not very positive, if you can see that little line. Underneath, you have all of the kings of the southern kingdom, and you see the sort of the blue line that's running through it, and it has its ups and downs. So here's the deal. When it comes to evaluating the kings, there is not one good king in the northern kingdom. Every one of 19 kings, the evaluation says that they did evil in the eyes of the Lord. And there came a point in time in the history of the northern kingdom where I think they became unsalvageable. I think this happens to be a theme that relates to judgment in the Bible, that when any particular nation becomes unsalvageable spiritually, that oftentimes that God will judge them, and they will be usually destroyed by some foreign enemy. And this happens to the northern kingdom. And if you watch the larger video, now John makes a mention of it in the book, but they all did evil. And in 722 BC, the Assyrian Empire, under the rule of Sargon II, invaded the northern kingdom and basically destroyed it. And part of what the Assyrians did when they conquered a nation was that they deported the entire population of that nation into Assyria and spread them out throughout the empire. It was a massive empire. So all of the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom were all deported and were spread throughout the kingdom. And then secondly, the Assyrians would then have their own people move in, and they would import Assyrians into the area to occupy it, and they basically destroyed the identity of the nation that they had conquered. The result of that is that to this day we refer to the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Those 10 northern tribes that made up the kingdom, we have no idea what happened to them. As a matter of fact, they were spread so far and wide that some of you that are watching this probably have some DNA that comes from one of those lost tribes, and someday God is going to pull all those back together. But 722 BC becomes a critical date because then the northern kingdom no longer exists. The southern kingdom, when you looked at that diagram that kind of had the up and down, I think it's a blue line there, what it's showing us is that in the southern kingdom there actually were a number of kings that were good kings, that the evaluation was that he did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. And you get a little taste of that on the longer video if you watch the 2 Kings video. I kind of pulled out a couple of the good kings and tell a little bit of their story. Actually, I also tell a story of Ahab and Jezebel, I think, which were Ahab was one of the bad kings of the north. But eventually what happened was that there was a string of bad kings in the south that deviated from the ways of the Lord. And in 586 BC, the Babylonians, who had conquered the Assyrians and now became the major empire in the world, they marched on Jerusalem, which had become a vassal state, and the king that they had placed in power decided to rebel against them. And Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Babylonian Empire, marched on Jerusalem, and in 586 they destroyed Jerusalem. They burned the temple, they knocked down the walls of the city, and they deported initially the cream of the crop, kind of the leadership, was deported to Babylon. And then after 586, when the city itself was destroyed, most of the occupants of Jerusalem and of the southern kingdom were deported, leaving only behind sort of some of the poorer laborers to take care of what was left of some of the agriculture there in the area. And so really it was a story, by the time you get to the end of 2 Kings, it is really just a story of what, again, I'm calling catastrophe. By the end of 2 Kings, there is no Israel, there is no Jerusalem, there is no temple, and the nation is in a position of absolute catastrophe. Now, God isn't finished with the nation, and as we move further along with a few of the remaining historic books of the Old Testament, we're going to see what happens. But at this point in time, it's hard to imagine what people thought. They had placed so much confidence in the fact that they were God's city, the city of David, that the temple was there, and suddenly it's just all gone. In the book then, what happens is that John then encourages his audience to watch that video of 2 Kings, and you have a link to it. Also, those of you that are watching and are on computer, at the end of this little video, there's a little square in the corner where Baker has made it easy for you to just click onto, and you can move right into the message and the teaching on 2 Kings. And again, that particular video will highlight some of the more important events that take place in 2 Kings, and you have a link to it, you have that box, you have a number of ways to get to it. And that then will bring us up to our next episode, where we will move from Lebanon on to Springfield. Springfield played a big role in the history of Route 66, so that'll be kind of fun to go through some of that in our next episode. And then our biblical book, we're actually going to combine 1st and 2nd Chronicles, since it's so repetitious of Kings, but we'll point out some of the difference then. But Chronicles, both 1st and 2nd, will be our biblical book that we'll look at our next stop on Route 66. So thanks for joining us today, and again, I hope that you will take time to go and to watch that 2 Kings video, and we'll be back with you next week on episode 8 of season 2 of The Road to Somewhere.